Welcome to Ready, Set, Hunt. Whether you're an aspiring, new, or seasoned hunter, join us as we share our experiences and learn from other hunters around the country. Hey everyone, welcome to a Quick Tip Tuesday with Ready, Set, Hunt podcast. I'm Peter. I'm just solo today. We got no Chris, but for this episode, we want to talk about something for this Quick Tip Tuesday that I think is really important for a lot of people, especially for people that are just getting into hunting who might say, I don't want to spend all this money on hunting, and I'm looking at some of this gear that you guys are talking about, and man, it's really expensive. And you know what? You're absolutely right. It can be very expensive. Hunting gear, it adds up no matter what kind of hunt you're going on, no matter what you're pursuing. I mean, let's just think about some of the things that you have to purchase if you're hunting. And this will obviously be dependent on what you're hunting, but there is a weapon, whether you're shooting a rifle, a muzzleloader, a shotgun, a bow. There's ammunition that comes along with that, or arrows. You've got your clothes. You might have glass like binoculars or a spotting scope. A scope that goes on your weapon. You've got boots. You've got your backpack that you might need, especially if you're hunting out west, or even just a smaller backpack if maybe you're doing some tree stand hunting here in the Midwest or out east. You're going to need a knife for processing your game. There's all sorts of miscellaneous items that you might even forget about. Some that come to mind are game bags, headlamp, backcountry meals, portable stove, underwear, socks. All these little things add up over time. And so it's like, if I'm just getting into hunting, how can I do it without spending seemingly thousands and thousands of dollars? Well, here's some things that I've done in the past to hunt on a budget, especially when I was just getting started. Because when I first started hunting, I was fresh out of college. I didn't have a job that paid a lot of money. And so I needed to do something, but I couldn't spend a lot of money. So here's what I did. Here are some tips that I have for you. First and foremost, some items are bought new. It's better to buy new, but a great way to save money is to buy slightly used. And I say slightly used because obviously you want to get value out of the items that you're going to be purchasing, but there's nothing wrong with slightly used. And here's where I would recommend for that. When it comes to firearms and bows, firearms, whether you're shooting a rifle or a shotgun or a muzzle loader, one of the best things you can do is go to a local gun shop. I'm not and this can be whether you a big box store, whether it's a Cabela's or a Shields or Bass Pro Shops or something like that, or just your small local gun shop close to you. They will almost always have good used options at a discounted rate. Now, the level of that discount is going to largely depend on what kind of rifle it is, what its original MSRP was, and also how common of a rifle that is, or how common of a weapon that is, and then also what kind of shape it's in. Now, I would recommend that if you're going to be buying used for any firearm, that you make sure that it has been inspected and given, the two thumbs up or the stamp of approval by a certified gunsmith, just to make sure it's safe. Most modern weapons are probably going to be okay, but you also just want to make sure there's nothing too terribly wrong with the gun. And a lot of times they're just fine, or else they probably wouldn't put them out on their shelves or on their gun rack. So that's always a good way. A little bit of research goes a long way. So if you can kind of figure out maybe what kind of weapon you're looking at or what kind of gun you want to buy, then sometimes used can be a great option. It'll save you money, and that allows you to spend money in other places. If you're looking to buy a bow used, you can always go to your local archery shop. They're going to have new options, but they're also going to have a lot of used bows that people have traded in for newer models. And most of the time, when you have a new bow in an archery shop, that bow has been gone through by the archery techs or by the bow techs. They're going to replace the strings and the cables and all that good stuff, make sure that everything's in working order. And a lot of the time, those used bows actually come in a complete kit. They'll have a sight on them. They might have, they'll have a release. They'll have a stabilizer. Well, probably not a release, but they'll have mounts and all that good stuff. So that's a really great option to get in at a very low level. And you know what? When you're just starting out, you don't need to have the nicest stuff. You don't need to have the latest tech, the latest and greatest. Just getting started is the important thing. And then later down the road, maybe when you've been able to save a little bit more money, or maybe you've gotten a promotion at work, that's when you can invest in that nicer gear that you'll be able to keep for years to come. But used is a great option. Another thing you can do, if maybe just buying a weapon or a gun or a bow just isn't in the tea leaves at the moment. Maybe it's just not even an option for you. Something else you can do is, if you know anyone else who does any hunting, or maybe has a scoped rifle, or even just a shotgun that they like to go and shoot clay pigeons with, you could always ask a friend or family if they'd be willing to let you borrow a gun. It's a little more difficult with a bow, because um, a bow really is personalized in the way it fits, and there are plenty out there who would argue the same can be said about rifles and shotguns. Totally agree, but it's a little easier to use one of those, even if it's not specifically made or fit for you. Whereas a bow is a little more of a personal item. But if you're looking to to get a rifle or a shotgun or something without spending any money, see if you can borrow from someone else. That's what I did the first time I ever deer hunted. I used my uncle's shotgun, and it was great. I didn't have to worry about that expense on the front end. I could just focus on other smaller things, and then also just focus on the hunt itself. Now, when it comes to buying other items like clothing or gear, you can always buy used that way too. And some of the best ways to do that is online marketplaces like Facebook Marketplace. There is a forum or a website called Rockslide that is specifically all about hunting and hunting gear, and other forum topics about hunting on there. And then there's also Facebook groups, a whole myriad of them. Of people that are selling their used gear, sometimes new gear at a discounted rate, just because they're trying to move a piece of equipment that they haven't used. But I think that's a really great way to get into some good gear at a much lower price than what you're going to pay full price if you go to a store or buy online. Caveat to that, though, is you really do need to be careful of scammers on sites like that, especially Facebook Marketplace and some of those Facebook groups. You'd like to think that everyone in there is kind-hearted, and that they're there to truly just sell their stuff and maybe buy something from someone else. But there are definitely fake accounts and scammers, and there's just things you got to look out for. Just to make sure that you don't get yourself in trouble. Most Facebook groups will have very specific rules to be a part of that group, and specific rules for posting equipment to sell. So make sure that your seller is following those rules. But unfortunately, with Photoshop and with AI, as good as it is these days, it's harder and harder to tell on some of these guys. But usually, when I'm buying something on a site like that, or on Facebook, I will actually go to the person's profile and look through their Facebook profile, and there's usually some pretty telltale signs that this is either a real person or a fake account that someone's made to scam people. But the best way to protect yourself, especially if you're buying from someone online, is to always use something like PayPal Goods and Services for making your purchases. Basically, what PayPal Goods and Services is, you can make a payment to someone online. You'll send them money, just like Venmo or Cash App or something like that. But when you use Goods and Services, the seller pays, I think it's like a 3% fee or something like that. But basically, what that does is it protects your transaction. So if you never actually get something from them, you can report the transaction and you can get your money back. It's a great way to protect yourself, and a great way to tell if someone's trying to scam you is say, I'll only pay with PayPal Goods and Services. And if they're not okay with that, then more than likely they're trying to steal your money anyway, and you can just walk away. Also, if you're looking at a piece of gear and you found it online, and you see that it retails for $350, and someone's selling it and they're saying it's brand new, it's never been used, it's in the package, and they're selling it for $200, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Don't fall for it. Just don't fall for it. It's a really unfortunate thing. I've never been scammed, but I have not used good judgment when paying someone something. I sent money to the wrong person. It had the exact same spelling in the name, and I used Venmo, and I didn't protect my purchase on it. And I sent money to someone, And then after the money was sent, I realized it went to the wrong account, and that person ghosted me and they took my money. Luckily, there are really great people out there, and the guy, the right guy that I was supposed to send money to for the item I was buying, he made me a deal. He still sold me the thing, but he knocked $100 off the price. There are great people out there. You just got to be really careful that you're not being scammed by the bad ones. So that's kind of what I go how I go about buying used for hunting gear. And I think buying used is a great way to get clothing, especially the higher end clothing. I probably would just avoid lower end brands, and just like, yeah, just lower end brands that you can buy at like a Fleet Farm, or a non-name brand at Cabela's or something like that. I probably wouldn't buy that stuff used. Usually the quality just isn't there, and if it's used already, it's probably going to fall apart pretty quick. But if you're looking at buying some of the higher end hunting clothing like First Light, Kuiu, Sitka, Stone Glacier, King's Camo, really, a lot of those brands, um, used is a great option. And there's usually a lot of stuff out there that you can buy at a discounted rate. Um, but sometimes buying used isn't always the way to go, or maybe you just don't want to deal with scammers and that rigmarole, and worrying about your money being stolen from you, or you get something from someone that you bought and it turns out it's in much worse shape than it looked in the pictures. Totally get that. There is always inherent risk, but usually if you do your homework, used can be a really great option. But when buying new, um, I never pay full price for anything. I don't think anyone should or needs to pay full price for anything. Whether you're shopping sales, there's always seasonal sales, or you're finding coupon codes or different discounts, there is almost always a way to not pay full price for something. There's no reason to pay full price. So the first thing I mentioned was shopping seasonal sales. Um, every hunting gear is usually, there's always sales on a very seasonal structure, whether that be holidays or also the actual hunting season itself. So some of the most common seasonal sales are going to be Black Friday, just because everyone has a sale on Black Friday slash Cyber Monday. And it's really like 2 weeks now. It's not even just Black Friday anymore or Cyber Monday. It's like these sales are happening for 1 to 2 weeks, and they always make it sound so urgent, like time's running out, you've got a while. But during those sales, online inventory on some brands can go pretty quick. So have an idea of what you want before the sale starts. Get on email lists of brands that you're interested in or stores that you're interested in, and so that way you will usually get an email first thing when that sale opens, or you'll even get emails telling you when the sale is going to start so that you can jump on it. So common seasonal sales: Black Friday. There's usually most hunting brands have some sort of spring sale that goes on just before some of the common spring hunting seasons like turkey and black bear, or they'll have a spring sale, um, essentially trying to move inventory from the previous year, since a lot of hunting brands have new gear that comes out in the summer. Um, so spring sale is always a good one to look at, especially for the upcoming fall. Sometimes there are late summer sales, and these are sales that usually happen just before the hunting season. This is also when a lot of brands will release some of those new items. And so because those new items are on the market, some of those older items from the previous couple years will also go on sale, usually again. Those can be great times to pick up some items at a discounted rate. And oddly enough, another common one is President's Day. I'm recording right now on President's Day. It's what is it, February 17th, and there are a bunch of different sites that are having President's Day sales right now, or different brands. I know every year Go Hunt has a big President's Day sale on their online shop. Um, there's some pretty great discounts on different gear on there, and they have all sorts of different kinds of gear. But yeah, just check your different brands and see who's having sales on President's Day. For some reason, it's a pretty common one. Um, Outside of actual sales that are going on, some other ways to save some money on new items is to find coupon codes and discounts. Um, there's a lot of different ways to find different coupon codes. There are plugins in your browser that you can use, whether through different financial institutions, whether you use something like Rakuten or there's Capital One Shopping. There's all these different things that when you go into your cart, say you add something to your cart on a store's website, and it'll automatically try and plug in coupon codes that other people have used in the past. And so sometimes you can automatically get a coupon code. That's a great way. If that doesn't work, another thing you can do is actually follow hunting influencers or outdoor influencers on social media and YouTube. And a lot of the time, those influencers or those common people in the hunting space or famous people in the hunting space will have sponsorships with different hunting brands, which means that they will actually have codes that you can use on these different brands' websites, usually for anywhere between like 5 and 15% off. It's rarely more than that, but it's still something. Every little bit helps, right? So if you have a favorite hunting influencer on social media, or on YouTube, you can usually use those discount codes. And I think usually that person gets a little kickback for that sale if that's something that's important to you. But it doesn't really matter to me whether they're getting kickbacks or not. I just like to use their discount code. So that's one thing you can look at. The other way that you can save money, especially if you're a first responder or a member of our military, and if that's you, thank you for your service. But most hunting brands or outdoor brands have some sort of special offer, or reward, or discount code for first responders and military members. I think that's amazing. It's great. Most of them require that you have a government ID number. I think a lot of them have their website linked up with GovX now, so that way you can just kind of use your information and log in, and then that way you usually get anywhere from like 10 to 20%, sometimes even more. It just depends. It just depends on the brand. Everyone's different, and everyone likes to give back to our first responders in different ways. So if you're a military member or first responder, definitely check that out. And that doesn't run seasonally. That is year round. So take advantage of that, and get what you deserve as a first responder or military member. Um, One other thing to mention is that there are some services that you pay for that often will have offers and rewards for their members. Specifically, ones that I'm part of are GoHunt and Onyx. If you're a Go Hunt insider, they have rewards programs for people. They will do points for purchases you make. So certain items will have a certain amount of points that will go into your rewards account if you make a purchase of an item on their site, and then those points are um, are essentially reflective of a dollar amount. 1 point is $1, and so as you build up those points in your account, essentially you're getting money to spend in the Go Hunt shop. I've done that, and it's really great. And they also run specials where they'll have you know multiplication of points on items. So some items will be worth 3 times, 4 times the points. That's a really great way to save money, especially if you have a bunch of purchases to make. But again, we're talking about hunting on a budget. So there are a bunch of different a bunch of discount codes, coupon codes on Go Hunt as well. If you use the coupon codes, you will not accrue the rewards dollars or the rewards points. So it's just kind of a trade off. Sometimes it makes more sense to do the points, and sometimes it makes more sense to do the coupon codes. But really, if you just kind of do the calculus, you'll figure out pretty quick which is the better deal for the specific item you're looking at, especially if they're running some sort of special. Um, and then for Onyx, if you're an Onyx member, and specifically, I think it's Onyx Elite member, so you have the mapping software for all 50 states. That's what Onyx Elite covers. It also gives you special rewards for being a member with a bunch of different brands. Some that I've used in the past have been First Light, Exo Mountain Gear Packs. Um, there's a whole bunch of other brands that Onyx has a partnership with that they offer discounts to their members. So look out for those. There's ways to save money everywhere. in the hunting space. So never pay full price. You don't need to. You don't need to. Now, when it comes to hunting on a budget, there are some areas that I would say don't skimp on. And when I say don't skimp, I mean don't go with the cheapest option you can find, because there are definitely areas in hunting gear where you can spend less money. You don't need the nicest stuff. You don't need the most expensive stuff. Definitely areas you can skimp on. But these are probably the three main areas that I would not skimp on. Number one is going to be your boots. I know Chris and I have talked about boots a little bit here already, and we'll continue to talk about boots in the future. And the reason we talk about boots so much is because we are such big believers in a good pair of boots. And maybe you're a duck hunter, and so maybe you're wearing muck boots or you're wearing waders. The same thing goes there. Make sure that you get a good pair of boots or waders or whatever your, whatever your area, hunting area is, and make sure they fit, make sure they're comfortable, and just don't skimp. All right. Another area don't skimp on, especially if you're hunting out west. I think you can skimp a little bit on this if you're doing more hunting here in the Midwest or out east in thicker timber, in areas that you're not going to be glassing a whole bunch. But this, I just said it. It's your glass. Don't skimp on your glass. Cheap glass, it can only get you so far, especially out west, because you're going to lose quality of clarity, and also some other features. There's going to be it's going to maybe get a little foggy or cloudy around the outside edge of what you're viewing, and also your image quality in low light situations is going to suffer. Um, there's nothing wrong if you're a whitetail hunter with going out and buying a pair of Vortex Crossfires or Vortex Diamondbacks, something real simple, something basic, something that's not going to break the bank. Actually, for the money, those are some pretty good binoculars. But usually something of that caliber, while it can be used out west, something that's going to be a little higher end is going to be a better option for you. And a great way to find that is going to be through buying used. That is an area I would buy used, is glass, specifically if the optics company that you're planning on buying from has an unlimited warranty like Vortex does. I know a bunch of the other ones have very similar warranties that way, because even if you're buying used, that warranty transfers to every owner of that pair of glass. You could be the fifth owner of that pair of binoculars, and that unlimited warranty still applies to you. So if you do end up buying a pair of used binoculars and they're in less than great shape, you can send them to Vortex, and they're either going to fix them for you and make them like new, or they're going to replace them with a brand new pair. Quick side story. I recently bought a rifle scope off of Rockslide from someone. It's a pretty high end rifle. It's essentially the highest end rifle scope that Vortex makes. It is a Vortex scope. It's the Vortex Razor LHT. It's the 4.5 to 22 magnification by 50 millimeter objective. It's probably not the most expensive one, but it's pretty much top of the line, especially for their hunting line. It's more of a lightweight scope. Anyway, I bought this online from a guy. Got a great deal on it. Super great guy to deal with. I got the scope shipped to me. It came right to my door. It was awesome. Transaction went smoothly. I put this scope on my rifle, and I could not get this thing to shoot for crap. This was a fairly new rifle, but it didn't make sense to me that this rifle would be so far off. I was at 100 yards. I was shooting about, I don't know, 3-4 feet to the right of my target, and I had my my windage all the way cranked up to try and get onto the target, and I couldn't get onto the paper. That was very odd to me, and so I decided, okay, I'm going to send the scope into Vortex and make sure everything is okay, or that I'm not doing something wrong. Am I stupid? I can't figure this out. So I sent it to Vortex, and sure enough, the inner scope tube had been crushed by over torquing. Now I use a torque wrench on all my rings and my scopes, and I find manufacturer torque rates, and I go by those by the book. I'm very, very meticulous when I mount my scopes. I don't think there was any user error in my mounting of this scope, which means it's very possible that these scope tubes were crushed before I got them. You know what? That's neither here nor there. I didn't have to worry about that because Vortex has that unlimited warranty. And because those scope tubes were crushed, they said there's not a way for us to repair this. So they sent me a brand new scope. Now, this scope that I bought, I think I bought it for just under $1,000. And that scope retails for closer to 1,700 brand new. So I essentially got a brand new scope for about $1,000. That's awesome. Now, for those of you who are listening, thinking about hunting on a budget, no, that is not a budget scope. I am at a point where I'm moving away from some of the very budget gear, but that's just an idea of things you can expect when buying online. Sometimes things happen, but if you do your research and buy smart, it can all work out in the end. So I'm not sponsored by Vortex. I've used other scopes and other optics from different companies and still do, but I do enjoy the Vortex products that I have, and I really do love their unlimited warranty. So that's why I think Vortex it's a great brand for all sorts of people, whether you're a beginner or someone who's much farther along in their hunting journey. I think Vortex has an offering for everyone. So if you're hunting on a budget, take a look at Vortex. And the last item that I would say not to skimp on would be a good backpack. Whether you're hunting here in the Midwest or out east, I think a good pack is still very important and paramount. You want it to be comfortable. You want it to carry a load well, whether that just be your gear or maybe your context. You're going 2 miles into public land, and so if you get a deer down or something like that, you still have to pack it out. I think a well-built, high quality, comfortable pack is extremely important. This is not an area I would skimp on. I see a lot of guys that will post on forums or groups or whatever, and they'll post a picture of a pack that they found online. It's like $100 or something. They say, "What does everyone think of this pack?" And what that tells me is it's cheap, and you're just trying to see if anyone will tell you that it's a good pack and will get the job done. Here's what I'm here to tell you. It's not a good pack. It will get the job done, but it might not be an enjoyable time for you. Usually, packs that are cheap for a reason, whether it be the quality of their build or their design or their comfort. Any number of those things or a combination of all those things plays into the price of that pack. Now, I'm not always saying that the most expensive is going to be the best. That's not always the case. There's some very expensive items that I have used that I have actually preferred cheaper items over them. That happens. But when it comes to a pack, I really do believe that investing in a good pack is worth the while, and it should be near the top of your list. Anyway, guys, just want to thank you for stopping in. If you have any other questions about hunting on a budget and maybe things that I have done or Chris has done, shoot us an email, send us a message on social media, send us a little note and ask us specifically what you're wondering about when it comes to hunting on a budget. There are plenty of ways to save money, and we're here to help you with that. Thanks, guys.